Welcome, listeners, to another My Mind MashUps deep dive where we try to unravel mysteries, spark curiosity, and really make sense of complex ideas together.
And today we're tackling, well, perhaps the biggest mystery of all. What is consciousness? We're diving into Christof Koch's really quite influential 2024 book, Then I Am Myself the World, what consciousness is and how to create it.
Koch is, he's a giant in neuroscience, right? Famous for years of work, especially with Francis Crick, searching for the brain basis of consciousness. But this book, it goes way beyond just locating it.
It really does. He's making a fundamentally bold claim here. He's pulling together threads from hard science, from philosophy, even from, spiritual or mystical experiences.
Right, claim is.
That consciousness isn't just something the brain does, like a fancy calculation. He argues it's an intrinsic causal power, basically the ability of a physical system to genuinely affect its own future state. It's fundamental.
Wow. Okay, so that flips everything. Instead of consciousness emerging from matter, consciousness is primary. The subjective feeling, my experience right now, that's the bedrock.
Exactly. He explicitly states primacy goes to consciousness, not to the objective world. That feeling of being you is the one absolute certainty we have.
Which is a huge philosophical leap. But Koch is a scientist, so if it's fundamental, how do we measure it? How do we handle this scientifically?
Right, and that's our goal today. We're going to unpack this revolutionary idea, look at the framework he uses, integrated information theory, to potentially quantify consciousness, and explore the, frankly, radical implications for everything from AI to ethics.
Okay, this sounds like a proper deep dive. Before we jump in, though, just a quick reminder, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe if you enjoy content that, well, makes you think.
Okay, so where do we start? It has to be with the theory underpinning so much of this. Integrated information theory, or IIT.
Right, IIT. Developed with Giulio Tononi. This is an entirely new ground for Koch, but this book seems to really expand on it.
It does. He builds on his previous work, like the feeling of life itself. But here he really pushes IIT as the core framework. The basic idea is that consciousness isn't unique to brains.
Okay.
It's proposed as a fundamental property of any physical system that has a certain capacity for what they call integrated information.
Integrated information, and that's measured how?
With a mathematical value they designate as A or phi. It's a bit complex to calculate, but the principle is simple. If a system has 0 phi, it's not conscious. If it has high phi, it's highly conscious. Like a dimmer switch, not just on-off.
So it's a spectrum, but how did they arrive at this particular mathematical measure? What makes phi the right measure for feeling?
That's the crucial part. They didn't start with the math and try to fit consciousness in. They started from the experience itself. They asked, what are the absolute undeniable properties of any conscious experience you or I could possibly have?
Okay, starting from the inside out. Makes sense. What are these properties, these axioms?
There are 3 core ones. First is integration. Your experience right now is unified. You don't experience the sound of my voice and the sight of the room as separate things processed independently. It's one whole irreducible experience.
Like seeing, a blue book. You see the blue book, not blue over here and book over there, somehow combined later. It's just one thing.
Exactly. It has to be irreducible. The second axiom is information, or maybe a better term, differentiation. The experience has to be specific.
Specific, meaning?
Meaning it has to have this particular experience out of a truly vast number of possibilities. Think about it every moment. Your brain is selecting one state from potentially trillions. If you were just experiencing pure white light, that's unified maybe, but not very informative. There's no differentiation.
Ah, okay. So it's not just unified, it has to be specific. This thought, this feeling, this image, it carves out a unique state from a huge space of possibility.
Precisely. And the third one is, well, it's the most philosophically loaded, intrinsic existence. The experience has to exist for the system itself, from its own perspective. It can't just be information that I, as an external observer, can decode from your brain signals. The feeling has to be for you.
Okay, that's deep. So, putting it all together, consciousness, according to IIT, is what it feels like from the inside, when a system's parts are connected in such a way that they form a single, unified, highly specific whole that has causal power over itself.
You've got it. It's about the system's internal causal architecture being massively interconnected and irreducible. That structure is the consciousness, or generates it directly.
Right. Now, if we take that idea seriously, it has massive implications for artificial intelligence. Koch seems pretty uncompromising on this point.
He is. He draws a very clear line. He argues consciousness is like mass or charge, an intrinsic property of the physical stuff and how it's arranged. It's causal structure. It's not an algorithm. It's not software that can just run on any hardware.
So his non-computability argument. This means even if we build an incredibly sophisticated AI, one that perfectly simulates a human brain, talks like us, acts like us, maybe even claims to feel.
According to Koch and IIT, it won't actually feel anything. It'll be a zombie, behaviorally indistinguishable perhaps, but empty inside.
Why? If the simulation is perfect, why isn't that enough?
Because the underlying hardware, typically silicon chips in today's computers, lacks the right kind of structure. A CPU fundamentally relies on components and logic gates that can be broken down. Its causal power isn't integrated in the same way a brain's is. You can analyze parts independently. It doesn't have that high A value.
So the simulation might replicate the function, but it doesn't replicate the necessary physical structure for integrated information.
Exactly. That's why he calls it fake consciousness. The substrate matters. The way the cause-effect powers is distributed and integrated within the physical system itself is what counts.
This really sets IIT apart from other major theories, doesn't it? Like global workspace theory, GWT, which seems pretty popular in AI circles.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. GWT basically says consciousness is about information being broadcast across a global workspace in the brain, making it available for different cognitive processes, like reporting or decision-making.
Kind of like information being put up on a central blackboard for everyone to see.
Sort of, yeah. But IIT proponents, like Koch, argue that GWT is really only describing what they call access consciousness, the ability to access and report information. It's about function.
Whereas IIT is aiming for
phenomenal consciousness, the raw feeling itself, what it's like to be something. GWT explains what consciousness does, how it helps us function. IIT tries to explain what consciousness is, fundamentally.
So if we ever want to build a truly conscious machine, one that actually feels, we need to stop thinking just about smarter algorithms.
According to this view, yes. The focus needs to shift to the hardware itself. Koch suggests the path forward, if there is one, lies in neuromorphic computing.
Building computers that mimic the brain's actual structure, dense connections, nonlinear interactions.
Precisely. Creating physical architectures designed to maximize that internal, integrated causal power to maximize ARIMA. It's about building the right kind of machine, not just writing the right kind of code.
This is definitely challenging stuff. And if this is resonating with you listening, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss our next deep dive into complex ideas like this.
So we've got this idea. Consciousness is tied to integrated information phi. If phi is a general property of physical systems, it implies consciousness isn't just in human brains.
Right, which leads to panpsychism, the idea that consciousness is everywhere, in rocks, in thermostats.
Well, Koch advocates for what he calls restricted panpsychism. It's widespread, yes, because the potential for phi exists in many systems. But it's not everywhere, and not all systems are equally conscious. It's restricted.
How is it restricted? What stops, say, my individual neurons from being conscious alongside my brain, or the room itself?
This is where another key part of IIT comes in. The exclusion axiom, or the AMAX principle. It's absolutely vital. It states that only the maximal integrated system is conscious.
The maximal one?
Yeah. Think of it like this. Your brain, operating as a whole, has a certain very high I value. That value is much, much higher than the I value of any individual neuron within it, or even small groups of neurons.
Okay.
And it's also higher than the potential I of, say, the system comprising your brain and the chair you're sitting on. Your brain forms the local maximal of integrated information.
So the system with the highest I in a given region sort of wins. It forms the conscious entity, and its existence overrides or excludes the consciousness of smaller, less integrated subsystems with it, or larger, less integrated supersystems containing it.
Exactly. The maximally irreducible causal structure takes precedence. My brain's consciousness gobbles up the potential micro-consciousness of its parts. This prevents a nested consciousness problem, neurons being conscious inside a conscious brain, inside a conscious room, etc.
That's a clever way to keep panpsychism from getting completely out of hand. But the core idea remains. If something has a non-zero Mmax, it has some degree of experience.
Correct. And the fact that we can, at least in principle, calculate this value is what Koch argues shifts consciousness from being a purely philosophical puzzle
to a scientific problem with real, tangible, ethical weight.
Precisely. This is where the theory, if correct, could have profound consequences. Koch doesn't shy away from this at all. He talks about using A as a potential ethical yardstick.
For things like?
For incredibly difficult medical decisions. Imagine being able to measure the A value, the capacity for experience in a fetus at different stages of development, or in a patient in a coma, or a persistent vegetative state, or even someone under anesthesia.
Wow, that would change everything. Instead of relying on behavioral responses, which can be misleading, you'd have a direct measure, potentially, of their inner life.
That's the ultimate goal, yes.
Yes.
It could provide a more objective basis for these incredibly fraught ethical judgments about the presence or absence of subjective experience, which often lies at the heart of debates about personhood and moral status.
And this doesn't just apply to humans, right? If A is a general measure.
Then it applies across the animal kingdom, and potentially beyond. It suggests that many animals possessing complex integrated nervous systems likely have significant I values and thus rich subjective experiences.
Which forces us to rethink our treatment of non-human life. The ethical consideration shifts from how intelligent is it, or how much like us does it behave,
to what is its capacity for experience? How much A does it have? It potentially grounds ethics in the capacity to feel, to suffer, to experience joy rooted in the physical structure of the system itself. It demands a kind of expanded empathy based on this intrinsic power.
This focus on the subjective, the undeniable reality of our own feeling, brings us back to the book's title, doesn't it? Then I Am Myself the World. There's a deep connection being made between the scientific framework and the nature of reality itself.
Absolutely. If our primary reality is our subjective experience, then, as Koch puts it, we each live inside our own perception box.
Our own constructed reality?
Yeah, think about it. We assume we all perceive the same objective world, but our sensory input is processed, filtered, and interpreted by our unique brains. Remember that viral internet thing with the dress?
Oh, yeah. Blue and black or white and gold. People were genuinely seeing different things, arguing fiercely about it.
Exactly. That's a perfect, almost trivial example of people inhabiting different perception boxes based on how their brains interpreted the ambiguous visual data. Our realities are constructed and fundamentally private.
That realization feels, well, a bit isolating, actually, knowing I can never truly know what it's like to be you.
It can be isolating, but Koch also frames it as empowering. It validates the absolute primacy of your own experience. And he connects this not just to science, but also to insights from altered states of consciousness.
Like near-death experiences or psychedelic journeys. He includes personal accounts?
He does. He discusses experiences, including some of his own, where the normal sense of a separate self, the I, that lives in the perception box dissolves.
And what happens then?
Often, the reported experience is one of profound unity, of interconnectedness. The boundaries blur. The feeling isn't, I am experiencing the world, but something more like,
I Am Myself the World, the title.
Exactly. It's this experiential realization of deep integration, where the distinction between self and other breaks down. He sees this as complementing the scientific picture from IIT, a state perhaps corresponding to a different configuration of R, where the boundaries of the maximal complex shift or dissolve. It's a synthesis of lab work and, well, almost mystical insight.
It's a powerful synthesis, but we have to address the elephant in the room, right? The big challenge for IIT.
No, absolutely. The measurement problem.
Right. The theory is elegant, the maths might be precise, but actually calculating as for anything complex, let alone a human brain.
It's currently computationally intractable, as critics rightly point out. The number of possible states and causal interactions you need to analyze in a system with 86 billion neurons is just astronomical. It's beyond any current or foreseeable computing power.
So we can't actually use it as that ethical yardstick in hospitals today.
Not today, no.
Yeah.
And that's a major hurdle for its practical application, and for some, its testability as a scientific theory right now.
How should we view that limitation? Does it invalidate the theory?
I think Koch would argue, and it seems reasonable, that it's a limitation of our current technology and measurement tools, not necessarily a fundamental flaw in the theory itself. The conceptual framework, the axioms, the mathematical structure, they stand as a hypothesis about how consciousness relates to physical systems. The challenge is verifying it at scale.
Okay, so it's a work in progress, pushing the boundaries of both neuroscience and our technical capabilities, which really sums up this whole exploration, doesn't it?
I think so.
Koch's work, this deep dive into it, is all about that synthesis. taking the undeniable reality of our own subjective feeling, our consciousness, and trying to build a rigorous, objective, scientific framework around it. The whole point is sparking curiosity, challenging our assumptions about mind and matter, and hopefully expanding our understanding.
It truly is a remarkable journey he maps out. And it leaves us with this thought. Maybe the quest to understand consciousness requires both things, the cold, hard logic of the laboratory and the kind of humility and openness we associate more with, say, the mystic traditions. Respecting the data, but also respecting the profound reality of experience itself.
A powerful closing thought.
Yeah.
We are, in Koch's view, perhaps, the universe experiencing itself, and understanding that is the grand challenge.
Indeed.
Well, that's all we have time for in this deep dive. Please do like, comment, and subscribe if you enjoyed this. You'll hear more My Mind Mashups deep dives.
And definitely drop your thoughts in the comments below. What do you think about IIT? About consciousness? Your perspective could genuinely shape where we go next.
You can find My Mind Mashups everywhere you listen. That's Amazon Music, Audible, Facebook, Pocket Cast, Spotify, TikTok, and YouTube. Thanks for joining us.